So thanks so very much to Menelaus for inviting me to join your event. I am currently in my home studio and via Zoom also in a rural artist studio in Sweden called Gilleboverket. So I've come actually from the arts department of Northumbria University. My research is informed by what I think is a fairly unusual academic pathway. I have a undergraduate in fine art, a postgraduate in development studies, and I have a PhD in planning and environment. And then before I joined academia, I worked in the arts sector for quite a few years. I thought for these 5 minutes, I would just say a little bit about my relationship, well, about my research, briefly about my relationship with rural studies, and introduce a sort of a question that I'm considering about interdisciplinarity, a bit of a rough something. So my work is ethnographic and it is informed by classical pragmatism, which promotes continuity through recognising our skin as a porous border. So this by unifying the thinking mind with the doing body, the heritage of this philosophy has informed the practice turn across disciplines, including, for example, organisation studies, architecture, and embedded human environment relations as a central concern across arts, humanities, social sciences. And ethnographic disciplines have adopted art making as an important haptic and somatic way of knowing human environment continuity, and my work contributes to this area. I'm currently working on a monograph to be published by Routledge that introduces art worlding as a way to recalibrate the art world concept as action-centred, promoting not what art is, but what art making does and might do. And it asks how art practice might build relations with other professional worlds in pursuit of experiments in knowing. So my introduction to rural studies arose from fieldwork on Holy Island, the Holy Island of Lindisfarne, as part of Northumbrian exchanges at Newcastle University in 2013, which was a project that explored the role of art in relation to rural development and involved fine art and colleagues in music, the Centre for Rural Economy and the Business School. And I collaborated on a paper with Menelaus arising from this fieldwork, which we published in the Journal of Rural Studies, where we introduced art's way of knowing as a relational diagnostic, and we have continued to work together. Because I have an awkward discipline, or I am awkward around discipline, I wanted to, I suppose, introduce something I've been thinking about in terms of interdisciplinarity in relation to my own work. So art is most often included in research as embodied knowledge rather than an intellectual pursuit, which is fastened to other disciplines and professional practice, or other, disciplines are defined to be intellectual and not embodied. So in terms of art, why is this the case? So my first discipline, I've come to realise, is art school training. And recent interest in art school pedagogy has certainly drawn attention to the specificity of art education, and this literature argues that artistic knowledge is distinct, and the return to Black Mountain College in rural North Carolina, the literature reminds us that Black Mountain was not structured towards producing artists for art itself, but because art and the arts help to cultivate intellectual discipline. Not that art training is itself an intellectual undertaking, but that it trains students to be more steadfast and rigorous in intellectual pursuits. That they can, through some kind of art experience, they come to know the order in the world by being sensitized to movement, form, sound, and get a firmer control of herself and her environment than is possible through purely intellectual effort. And I was quoting a bit there from Miller 2018. So I went on to make sculpture, and my degree show included a series of plaster blocks. I haven't, however, made an artwork since Duncan of Jordanstone, but the relational attention that I grasp there is the discipline that shapes my practice research. And in the process of writing my book, I've sort of refound some texts from my art school days, and I just wanted to read a poem by Paul Klee, which was, or the opening of the poem, called Individuality, written in 1905 as the close of my section. Individuality is not of the substance of elements, it is an organism indivisibly occupied by elementary objects of a diverged character. If you were to attempt division, these parts would die. Myself, for instance, an entire dramatic company.